It bothers me when I look at Africa and the Caribbean islands. And I just came back from Aruba, and I'll be going later on this year to Martinique, Curacao, and back to Suriname in South America. But it bothers me when I look at the history of how we fought for liberation, followed by independence in the Caribbean, only to hand that independence back over to another race of people. So we fought for freedom from the white man, and now we're handing over that freedom to the yellow man. When I was in Jamaica, 2015, I keynoted National Heroes Week, Irie FM and Ocho Rios and Marcus Garvey's back, me and Muta Baruka, actually. And while I was in Jamaica, I heard all these rumblings about the Chinese. And I've been to Jamaica before, and I've seen the Chinese. But in studying what they have done since my last visit, I was astounded and appalled to find out that they had made so much inroads into controlling and influencing the infrastructure of the Jamaican people. The Chinese built a road from Kingston, one side of the island, to the other side of the island. And in exchange for the roads that they built, the Jamaican government, unless this has changed since then, gave the Chinese total control over the toll money that will be made by people using the Northwest or East-West Highway. Why would you give a foreign power complete monetary control of the tolls on this road that you know half of Jamaica gonna be using? You're talking millions of dollars of revenue you're giving to the yellow man just because he built the road. In addition to that, the Chinese are building it's probably done by now. They were building at that time 2 schools, and they were bringing Chinese educators over to help the Jamaican people educate black children. They built the Children's Hospital, which is supposed to be largely staffed with Chinese. They also gave the Chinese total control of all tourism on both sides of that highway that goes from one side of the island to the other. I was also told that they gave the Chinese the right to drill in natural rainforests in the Jamaican on the Jamaican territory for Chinese exploitation. They'd given them tax abatements, and they also purchased, if I'm not mistaken, the port. The main port of Jamaica is owned by the Chinese. If another race owns your port, that means they control what's coming in. They control what's going out. What about the drugs? What about the guns? What about the COVID? You don't know what them people bringing in. And you mean to tell me that the Chinese care so much about Jamaican people that they're not going to educate our kids and take care of their health? Chinese don't care about black folks. Go to China. Go to China and see how they treat black people in China. So to me, what I think this is the government of Jamaica, like so many African governments, so many other Caribbean governments have done. They've gotten in bed financially with the Chinese. The Chinese have studied the way the white man has practiced neo-colonialism throughout Africa. And the Chinese has learned that these black leaders don't really care about their people. They're all about their pockets. So I'm going to do what the white man did, but I'm going to do it 1 time better. I'm going to offer them double the money. You let me take over this land right here. I'll get the white man offering you $1 million. I'm offering you $3 million. And I'm going to build you a retirement home. And I'm going to pay for all your kids to go to college in China. You follow what I'm saying? And I'm going to give you a private military. So the Chinese have basically become neo-colonialists 2.0. They're outdoing the Europeans. You follow me? And they're giving Caribbean and African leaders offers that they can't refuse. And guess what? When you abdicate on that loan that they give you, because all this is loans. These are not handouts. It's all loans. When you abdicate on the loan in that contract, you have to give them large concessions of land and large concessions of your economy. There's an African country right now. Is it Uganda? There was an African country who defaulted on their loan to the Chinese, and they now own their national airport. I forget which, they own the airport now because they couldn't pay back the loan. The Chinese know what they're doing. The problem we have as African people is we tend to think anybody who's not white is a friend of ours. Nobody is our friend, not the Arab, not the Chinese, not the Latino, except the African Latinos who identify with us, not the East Indians, not the Native Americans. We don't have friends. But black people have been seduced into this multiculturalism, which says the brown man is your friend, the yellow man is your friend, the red man is your friend. No, they're not. Black people don't have no friends. And my greatest fear about Chinese neocolonialism 2.0, my greatest fear about Chinese neocolonialism 2.0 is when the time for revolution comes, because there will be a second revolution because you got to get rid of the Chinese. You're going to have to fight 10 times harder. When you fought to get the white man out in the 60s, in the 40s, in the 50s, it was a little easier because he don't have the numerical strength. The white man had to use other black people in his armies to fight blacks because they're only 10% of the world. They don't have enough. China is the most populous country on the planet Earth. They have 1 billion people, not to mention their reserves around the planet, okay? Don't get me wrong, African people, we're 2 billion. We're the biggest. The problem is most of us identify something other than black, which reduces our numbers. I'm not African. I'm multiracial. I'm not African. I'm Latino. I'm not African. I'm Samoan. You follow? So we are disintegrated based on these names. Here's the point that I'm making. Because the Chinese have the technology, because the Chinese have the manpower, the second war for African independence, the second revolution for African independence against Chinese neocolonialism 2.0 is going to be 10 times as bloody, 10 times as long, and it's going to require the sacrifice of 10 times as many people. We will not be able to throw them out of Africa and throw them out of the Caribbean as easily as we did the whites. And the whites wasn't easy. That was a hell of a war. So just multiply that by 100, and that's what we're going to have to deal with the Chinese. The worst thing we're doing is giving them all this, and it's being done through the politicians. The politicians are doing it.